As the weather gets warm, the season changes and we come up to the new fire season. Hot weather, dry grass, winds, all the different experiences that are part of the original fire experience come tumbling back to us. What we're going to find as this happens is that without realising it, certain features of our experience are going to not just remind us of what happened on the day of the fire, they're going to put us right back there with all the feelings. Smell of smoke, for instance, the quality of the light, the dryness of the air, the way the wind tosses the leaves in a dangerous way, anything, sirens, the sound of the emergency app going off. Any of these things can just simply evoke all of the feelings that happened. We call these triggers. Triggers in the sense that a simple stimulus, sense impression, suddenly leads to a massive rush of often very unpleasant feeling. It may or may not bring a memory image that belongs to the past. Now, when we go through an emergency, we go into this state of high arousal, which is produced by threat and the way our body and mind activate themselves to get ready to deal with the threat. And when we're in that state, we become hyper alert. All of our energy goes into our senses, taking in the sensory impressions and acting on them. And we lay down these loops of experience between sense impression, emotion, and action. And we don't have time, with all the rush of the emergency, to observe, reflect, think about, and understand the reactions we have. We just roll from one to another. And often, if we haven't really spent enough time thinking and talking about what's happened, and there isn't time afterwards, we've got these loops stored up in our memory system, so that when we now come into the next period of fire, the whole environment is telling us it's dangerous again. And the risk is that we start to have lots of emotional reactions that we don't understand, because these linkages have been stored up and put aside during the year when it's wet or cold or different anyway, different. That's the thing. And we don't realise what we've stored away. We don't know what our triggers will be. We can imagine some of them, but we won't know what they are. People are always surprised when they've been through any kind of emergency or trauma at the triggers, and we'll often find that one trigger is the time of the year, and people start to often feel uneasy as they head towards that time of the year before they've even necessarily realised that it's getting to that time of the year. So anything that's similar to the sense impression that laid down the initial emotion is liable to reactivate it. The smell of smoke, for instance, even if it's the smoke of a barbecue over the back fence, or a burn off down the road because Del Park clearing the roadsides. It takes us back to the fear of the smoke. That meant there was a huge bushfire bearing down on us and we didn't know what was going to happen. When that's reactivated, the emotion dominates. It's distressing. And in that moment, there's no difference between how we feel now. Well, there is a bit, but it's like the old emotion is reactivated. It doesn't get us anywhere, it takes us back. And this constant going back and reactivating, it's like opening an old wound or spraining your ankle over and over again. So we need to interrupt that loop. How do we do that? We need to bring thinking in. Thinking is what helps us to be rational and reasonable and logical, and therefore realistic. Bring in the reality. And that means if we can recognise what it is in our environment that is similar to some aspect of our emergency experience, it's that similarity that's reactivating the loop. With our thinking, we can ask ourselves, is this the same or not? This is the similarity, there is smoke, but is it the same smoke? No, it's not, it's a barbecue. No, it's not. I know that DELP are doing a burn-off. And anything we can do to call to our attention, or those of our family and friends who might be upset, particularly children, point out, it's early in the season, it's still moist. It's not like it was last year. It's not been a drought. There's a lot of green. Look at the green in the grass. There's grass, but it's green. It's moist. There's moisture in the soil, not like last year where there'd been a drought. Any difference we can bring will help us. And one of the big differences is we're more experienced. We've been through a fire. We've got more idea what to do, and hopefully we've made some plans. And so every time we actually make a difference between the original experience and the present one, we actually bring ourselves from the past into the present. We can do that in our own mind. I've often told the story of the woman who rounded the corner in a car and in the wintertime and hit a fog bank after Black Saturday and had to pull off the road because she found herself having an anxiety attack. Because of course the fog reminded her of fire and her own evacuation experience. But she pulled over, breathed slowly, and just told herself, now she's using her thinking, it's cold, damp, it's cloud, it's not smoke, it's not dangerous, I'm not in danger, everything is safe, I just need to drive slowly through the fog. And it's this talking through. So we've got to be prepared to talk ourselves through. And the strongest thing we can start with is, how is it different? It is the same in some ways, there's a similarity, what's the difference? And look around and try to find some differences. The other thing that we'll notice that will come up again and again is the tendency to go back to a fragment. And I think what really helps us with that is to put the whole narrative together, because we'll often pause at the moment of greatest danger. And so just reminding ourselves, yeah, that was a terrible moment and I didn't know what was going to happen, but what did happen? Yeah, this happened and that happened and the fire brigade came and we managed to evacuate and we got out and everything was all right in the end. And that's again coming from our thinking, from, you might say, our more rational memory rather than our emotional memory. It's a different memory system, isn't it? And often we'll have to actually push ourselves, say, what did happen? Did happen? Oh, that's right, this happened, that happened. Anything that makes us active in relation to those triggers will help us to reduce their power. We will have to do it a number of times. But if we begin understanding that, being ready for them as the weather warms up, they'll be activated, and we do that work, do the thinking each time that the emotion is activated, then we can use this season and all succeeding seasons to continue to do, if you like, therapeutic work, helping us to get over it, to put it in the past and not to carry it around with us. Because to react to the last fire isn't the best way of being prepared to the next fire. It's best to think about what mistakes we made and what we didn't know and what we've learned and how better prepared we are, and then ask, so how would I like to do it this time? Then we're prepared for the fire that comes, not the one that came here last time. So this will require repeated approaches. And I think we can help each other in a family. If we talk about this together, people understand the process they need to go through. And it's part of our way our nervous system is organised. So we'll have to do it with children, even preschool kids. They're going to have triggers, and teenagers, and ourselves as adults. And then each season will become one that helps us to put this emergency into better perspective.